He didn't scream when he saved. He didn't thump his chest. He didn't ask to be remembered. Peter Bonetti just did his job better than almost anyone ever had. And when it all ended, he walked away without a word. 729 appearances for Chelsea. 208 clean sheets. No scandals, no statues, no final roar from the crowd. Just a quiet figure in goal, making impossible saves look effortless, then disappearing into the background. They called him the Cat, because he moved like wind through grass. And yet, when England needed someone to blame, they blamed him. One match, one mistake, and everything else was erased. But not here. This is for those who gave everything, asked for nothing, and still carried the weight alone. If you believe silence deserves a voice, subscribe now. For the ones who never shouted but stood taller than anyone else ever did. Peter Philip Bonetti, born 27th September 1941 in Putney, South London. His father was Swiss, his mother English, and when no scouts came, she wrote Chelsea herself. A letter, not with hype, not with promises. Just belief that her boy in goal was different. Chelsea read it, they gave him a trial, and after the first dive, they knew. He wasn't tall, he wasn't loud, but he moved like instinct had shape, like stillness could breathe. At 17, he was training with the first team. At 18, he made his debut 1959 in the First Division. A teenager standing between the posts for Chelsea. And the crowd gave him a name that stuck for life. The Cat. Not because he roared, but because he waited. Because he struck without warning. Because he didn't need to be seen to make the difference. While others flailed, Bonetti stood calm, reading everything, silencing everything. And so it began not with fame, but with a letter, a dive, and a boy who made Chelsea's goal feel sacred. The Chelsea of the late 60s didn't walk quietly. It swaggered. Peter Osgood with the elegance, Charlie Cook with the trickery, Ron Chopper Harris with the steel, Ian Hutchinson launching throw-ins like grenades. A squad full of flair, fire, and fearlessness. And behind them, all Peter Bonetti. He didn't drink like the rest, he didn't fight like the rest. But when it got reckless up front, Bonetti made sure nothing reckless happened behind. He wasn't a showman. He was the silence in the noise. While Stamford Bridge roared, he moved like shadow calm, exact, inevitable. Game after game, he turned panic into routine, and the clean sheets came like muscle memory, like ritual. 1964 to 65. Chelsea lifted their first major trophy, the League Cup. Bonetti was in goal. No theatrics, just presence. It was the club's first taste of silver. But for Bonetti, it was just the job. By now, the fans didn't just admire him, they trusted him. And for a team built on fire, trust was gold. The others made headlines. Bonetti made certainty. He was the one part of Chelsea that never cracked. 11th April 1970. Old Trafford. FA Cup final replay. Chelsea versus Leeds. United, the most savage final English football had ever seen. And in the middle of it all, Peter Bonetti. Early in the match, Mick Jones crashed into him. A violent, clumsy hit. Bonetti's knee folded under the weight. Agony. Instantly. The physio ran on. The bench looked ready. But Bonetti stood up. Substituting a goalkeeper in 1970? Unheard of. He limped, stretched, then walked back to his line. He would not leave. Not now. Not when Chelsea were chasing something they'd never held, the FA Cup. He stood on one leg and faced wave after wave. Leeds fired in crosses, shots, bodies. But Bonetti refused to fall. Every save was pain. Every step, grit. And when David Webb scored in extra time when Chelsea lifted the FA Cup for the first time in their history, Bonetti didn't collapse. He didn't roar. He just walked off. Calm, controlled, unshaken. Later, he laughed. If I'd come off, Osgood would have gone in goal. He didn't want sympathy. He wanted the clean sheet. He wanted the win. And he got both on a knee that shouldn't have let him stand. May 1971. Athens. The Cup Winners' Cup Final. Chelsea versus Real Madrid, kings of Europe, champions of the old order, and in goal for Chelsea, Peter Bonetti. The first match ended 1-1, but Chelsea would not have survived it without Bonetti. He clawed out low drives, parried point-blank strikes, held corners in crowds like the air obeyed him. 2 days later, same city, same heat. The replay. Bonetti walked out again. No nerves, no drama, just presence. 2-1. Chelsea won. Goals from Dempsey and Osgood. But in the dressing room, they all knew who kept them standing. Peter Bonetti. He didn't raise his fists, didn't run to the fans, just touched the post, took off his gloves, and disappeared. Chelsea had just won their first European trophy, and still he didn't make it about himself. Because for Bonetti, the job was never about applause. It was about making sure the net stayed still. And it did. That night should have sealed him in English football history. But within weeks, everything would change. June 14th, 1970, Lyon, Mexico, World Cup quarter-final. England versus West Germany. Gordon Banks. England's hero in '66 had fallen violently ill. Food poisoning the morning of the match. There was no time to plan, no rhythm, no preparation. The gloves went to the quiet man on the bench, Peter Bonetti. No warm-up, just altitude, pressure, and expectation. The weight of a nation still clinging to past glory. England went 2-0 up. Bonetti hadn't put a foot wrong, but then it unraveled. Franz Beckenbauer drove low and hard. Bonetti went down late, 2-1. Then came Uwe Seeler, a looping header over a frozen defense. Then Gerd Müller in extra time as inevitable as gravity. 3-2. England were out. And Peter Bonetti was never picked for his country again. He had played just 7 times for England. Before that day, he had conceded once. But in 120 minutes, the public erased everything he'd ever done. No forgiveness, no context, just blame. After the match, Alf Ramsey told him, "Don't let it affect the rest of your career." Bonetti never replied. He never argued, never gave interviews, never tried to fix the narrative. He just returned to Chelsea and kept saving. But England had already made up its mind. From that day on, he wasn't the cat anymore. He was the scapegoat, and English football never took it back. By 1975, Peter Bonetti had left Stamford Bridge. No farewell tour, no testimonial, just gone to the NASL with the Saints, Louis Stars. A quieter league, a gentler pace. Most thought that was the end. More than 600 games for Chelsea. No one expected a return. But in 1976, when Chelsea was sinking, relegated, fractured, desperate, Bonetti came back. Not for money, not for trophies, just to help. To protect the club that never protected him. He was older now, slower, quieter than ever. But when the season ended, Chelsea were back in the First Division. 1976-77, promotion. And Bonetti, still calm between the posts, helped lead them home. By 1979, he walked away again. And almost no recognition. But he wasn't finished. In 1986, at age 45, he returned for 2 emergency matches with Woking, the non-league club of his youth. No contract, no ceremony, just boots and gloves. Because someone had to stand in goal. Even then, he didn't care who was watching. He never did. Later, he became a mentor, a coach, teaching young keepers at Chelsea, England, Newcastle, Man City, Fulham, quietly shaping a generation, without ever asking for the credit. That's the thing about Peter Bonetti. Even when football walked away from him, he never walked away from it. 12th April, 2020. Peter Bonetti passed away after a long illness. Age 78. There were no packed stands, no flags, no tribute match, no testimonial on the pitch, just a quiet reunion dinner in 2009, decades after the cheers had faded. The world was locked down, and the man who spent his life in silence left it the same way. Chelsea wore black armbands. They posted a message. Fans lit candles at home. But the stadium stayed empty, And the press barely blinked. No minutes of applause. No national tribute, no real send-off, just a quiet gesture in an empty stadium long after the moment passed. No chants, just the kind of silence he'd always stood inside. The next day, Chelsea opened an online book of condolences. Thousands wrote in. Memories, photos, tears. But no one turned it into headlines. No match was paused, no banner flown. The gloves came off one last time, and football moved on. 2 years later, 18 April 2022, his ashes were placed behind the goal at the shed end. The same goal he defended more than 300 times. No statue, no unveiling, just a quiet return to the spot he once turned into sacred ground. And someday, perhaps in 2025, a few will return silently. Old chants echoed beneath the lights. Software fading. But they were there. Because the silence never meant no one cared. It meant no one knew how to honor him properly. He deserved a send-off like Banks, like Osgood, like Shilton. Instead, he got rain. And quiet. And a world that never understood how much it owed the man who asked for nothing. 729 appearances, 208 clean sheets. One mistake. And that's what they chose to remember. Not the cup finals, not the European glory. Not the seasons he carried Chelsea on his shoulders while the club buckled around him. Just one match. One misstep in the heat of Lyon. And silence ever since. But the ones who truly understood football, they never forgot. Pelé said it best. The three greatest goalkeepers I ever saw: Gordon Banks, Lev Yashin, Peter Bonetti. And still, Bonetti never demanded anything. No interviews, no memoirs, no grand exit. He just stood in goal week after week and made the impossible look quiet. No tribute match, no statue, no chant etched into club routine. Just gloves, a post, and a name fading where it never should have. His ashes now rest behind the shed-end goal, the one he made holy. But even there, no spotlight shines. No flag waves, no roar rises when his name is spoken. That ends here. And no one showed up like Bonetti. If you believe that silence deserves remembrance, that loyalty deserves more than regret. Subscribe now for justice, for Peter Bonetti, for the ones who never shouted but stood taller than anyone else ever did.